guys doing? Today we're going to talk about 5 DC comic storylines I think should be turned into future projects for the DCEU. A lot of these projects follow Batman as being the main selling point, the main character, because for me Batman's my favorite character, a very popular character. So that's the reason why I chose him to be in 3 out of these 5 picks. I know a lot of you DC fans want to see obviously different types of characters being implemented into the DCEU. But I think for me, the main focus, even though the new Batman movie's coming out, the DCU should focus on Batman as the main selling point. Especially how they did with Iron Man as the MCU. I think Batman should be the main selling point over Superman. Number 5, I have a film that I think could span even multiple films within itself, and that's the Bat Family. I think they should do a specific film just for the Bat Family. They could include Batman if they want to, but it doesn't necessarily have to include Batman. Maybe it could be a story about how Red Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, they all have to get Batman in the story itself as he's in danger or something's about to happen to him. Or they could just be a story about all of those characters together, including Batman, and they have to take down a specific foe. Or they could even go the direction of the Scott Snyder storyline, where in Death of the Family, the Joker, of course, takes all of the people that are around Batman, including Robin, Damian Wayne, Red Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, all of them as the main villain. That could be done maybe even 10 years from now. I could see the story happening, especially if they want to create movies for each character. We already know Batgirl's going to be coming out, and next year, I believe, or even the following year, but I could definitely see this movie happening maybe the next 5 to 10 years. I hope they do it. I think it's a great opportunity, and I'd just love to see all the Bat Family in a single film. Number 4, I have the story of Batman and the 3 Jokers. I think this could be a great film for the DCEU in the future. Again, I've said before, a lot of these picks were focused with Batman being the star, because he's my favorite character, obviously, but I think the 3 Jokers is a great story that could be done using Pattinson's character if they want to, or even a older type of Batman. I wouldn't say more like Michael Keaton's. I would say maybe more towards Ben Affleck's type of Batman, someone of that age. But it would include the 3 Jokers, the storyline, which includes the comedian, the criminal, and the clown. I think this would be a great story for the DCU to take. Also, they could do 3 separate movies. One they've already done with Joaquin. If they want to do the second Joker film, I think they should do it with even a new Joker. Because I think Joaquin already has the comedian down pat in terms of creating that version of the Joker. But I think someone else could do the criminal and someone else could do the clown. I could see maybe Jim Carrey. I know a lot of people like Jim Carrey for being the Joker. I would be the clown version. I think could be Jim Carrey. And I think then the criminal version could be someone like Willem Dafoe. Is also a great pick to be the next Joker if they wanted to go that direction. But I think this should be a great movie, and it would definitely sell box office because Joker himself is already a super popular character within the DCU, and the last Joker movie already made above $1 billion. So I could see the DCU maybe doing this, even though I know there's already a Joker sequel coming out in the near future, if Joaquin wants to do that. But I think a great storyline should be the Jeff Johns storyline of the 3 Jokers and Batman. Selection from our DCU series of films that could be made from DC Comics by Warner Brothers is that of Green Lantern and the Blackest Night. And I think this should be a great series because it could be done even on a worldwide scale in terms of the DCU. It could affect numerous characters throughout the DCU, including characters that are being made right now within. It could be with the Suicide Squad. It could be with Batgirl. It could be with all these different and new characters that happen. And of course, we obviously need the Green Lantern film to happen first. But I think they'll probably do the storyline of the Sinestro Corps War first, and then leave this maybe later as a solo event, especially for Green Lantern. I think this should include characters like obviously Hal Jordan. I think they should introduce Jon Stewart. They should introduce Guy Gardner, of course. All these main Green Lanterns that we've known already, I think, should be introduced right before this event happens, and they should be all utilized in this event. I think it's a great story because it really spans all of the whole entire universe. It uses also the introduction of new rings and new like the Sapphire, the Indigo, the Blue Lanterns, the Red Lanterns, of course, with Atrocitus. There's just so many great characters, and it's just a great story in general by Jeff Johns with the Blackest Night for Green Lantern. Of something different, especially it's more like almost universal and being about kind of the space aspect of the DCU, which we haven't really seen at all, compared to like mainly focusing obviously on the more popular characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. But I think this should be a great event that could bring in new fans that are more into like the cosmic aspect and the sci-fi elements of the DCU, similar to how the Guardians of the Galaxy has their own thing with that. I think it should be a great event that could happen. Maybe I could see this happening about like 10 years from now, maybe, because you have to build up all these characters like Hal Jordan, like Guy Gardner, the whole Green Lantern Corps. I think they should do separate, maybe a separate series for Hal Jordan alone, and then do a separate series for the Green Lantern Corps if they wanted to go that way. But I think that's how I would do it, to be honest. I would do the Green Lantern Corps movies, and then I would do the Hal Jordan series as separate, and then I'll bring them in maybe in the second film where I want to include them both together with the Guy Gardner troops and the John Stewart troops. But that'd be my thoughts on what would be a great story of the Blackest Night of the Green Lantern series by Jeff Johns. And I think that'd be a great story to tell on the big screen. I think it's also a cool story because it shows all these dead characters from the DC universe come back to life with the Black Ring, the introduction of the Black Ring, and all the crazy villains that end up having them, and it's just a great story in general. So I hope DCEU knows about this story and plans to turn this whole event into a film series pretty soon. Second storyline for the DC universe, I think one of the best events in all of DC Comics is the Infinite Crisis. I'm not talking about the Crisis on Infinite Earths, I'm talking about the Infinite Crisis series done by Jeff Johns. I like the Crisis on Infinite Earths as well. I think maybe they should even do that just like as preamble, like right before they go into Infinite Crisis. But Infinite Crisis, I think, has a better story in general. I think has cooler moments. The fight scenes, of course, of Superboy is just epic, and it'll be beautiful to see on the big screen, along with the story of bringing also Alexander Luthor into the mix as having these two really cool villains, and showing Lex Luthor as a different version of himself. It just changed the way that we view the superheroes in general, because the Infinite Crisis storyline kind of focused on the old versus new generation of superheroes, like how the tone is different, how it used to be more lighthearted versus now, which is usually darker. I just think there are great elements in this whole story that could be shown on the big screen, and I think it's one of the best events DC Comics has done in the recent years. There's another aspect to it is the fact that there's obviously death in it, and it involves also the morality issues that come with superheroes, whether they should be able or shouldn't be able to kill, and what happens when a character does kill somebody and the world sees it. I just think it has great elements that has deeper thoughts about what it means to be a superhero, especially in DC Comics, and also it hasn't really been a subject matter that's been shown on the big screen aside from maybe a series like The Boys, but even that's even darker out of its own. We haven't really seen Marvel or DC tackle this as much, so this could be another crucial event that could, I guess, see happen on the big screen. Of course, at my number one in terms of DC stories that should be told in the DCEU is a Batman story, of course. As I've said before, that I've chosen 3 out of the 5, and this one is Batman, the Court of Owls storyline, to be specific, and the run for Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. I think the artwork in that is amazing. I think the story is amazing. It's one of my favorite Batman, if not maybe even my favorite Batman story told. Definitely in the most recent years, but maybe even of all time. I think it's one of my truly favorites that I've read. But I think this should be a great story that could be told. I would choose definitely, I think, an older Batman. I don't think Pattinson's would work, and I wouldn't want Michael Keaton. He's just way too old. But I would definitely want someone in the range of like a Ben Affleck. But they could cast someone else completely, but someone in that age range of like their 40s to do this role, because it definitely shows Gotham as a character and something that Batman isn't used to. And certain elements, and a cool new villain like obviously Talon and the Court of Owls is a kind of this force to be reckoned with, and something that's been kept out of sights in all of Gotham until this story popped up. And it's just a great story told by Scott Snyder. I would really love to see this movie in the big screen at some point in the future. If they're not doing this story, I'm probably gonna try to do this and try to direct it at some point in my career. But I would love to see this movie on the big screen if they don't do it. I would say in the next 5 years, maybe. Thanks for watching. Let me know down below what you guys thought about this list. What are your opinions on what 5 storylines you guys want to see in the upcoming DCEU in the next 5 to 10 years? Let me know in the comments below. Have a good one.